Cool, guys. Thank you for coming. Welcome to Linux Foundation AI and Data Day in Berlin. My name is Yakov. I have to apologize for all the emails I was sending about the event, but finally you were able to make it here, so I'm grateful for that. When I was preparing for this event, I've asked several generative AI tools to write me a joke to open the event with. None of them was good enough. That means we still have a way to go and to improve the generative AI and to improve the open source community for the purpose of developing a truly powerful open source generative AI and AI tools and data tools to be used widely across different industries. This event is organized by Cloudgeometry, the company I work with, and Jina.ai, the company from here from Berlin. Both of us were members, general members of Linux AI. Anni will be speaking a little bit more about Linux Foundation, AI and data, about the open source ecosystem. But just to let you know, this is a truly community and open source movement. So if any of your companies or you as individuals are willing to join Linux Foundation to contribute to those efforts of generative AI, to those efforts of data AI tools for commercial and non-commercial but open source use, feel free to speak with Anni, feel free to speak with me, or feel free to speak with Hanel. We will be happy to provide more information. Couple of words about Cloudgeometry and what we do. Cloudgeometry, it's a little bit different company in this ecosystem or in this landscape. We are not a product company. Cloudgeometry is a US-based company who is active on both sides of the Atlantic. We are a services company that provides services to different customers in different scales around DevOps, AI projects, AI training, development, and so on, as an extended arm or as an extended expert and boutique consultancy. A little bit of the numbers. We are 13 years on the market. We have around 120 people in the US and in Europe. We work with AWS, with Microsoft Cloud. We do contribute to Linux Foundation and to CNCF. And my colleague here, Alex, maybe can speak a little bit later with somebody who would be willing to know about our reference implementation in open source. We are specializing in different aspects of UI and data projects, in the entire pipeline from AI model selection and tuning until the really deployment and training and knowledge transfer. That's what we do, but this is not the reason we're here. I just want to use this opportunity and to present us a little bit more for those who might be willing to know what Cloudgeometry does. Okay, so we offer different range of services in different capacities for different customers. We work with many fast-scaling companies and also with companies that are looking to include AI and data tools in their core business, but not really know how to do it. And we are really investing in open source, sharing the principles of the open source community, and believing that the contribution, lobbying, policing, and active involvement of the community shall bring better results and shall democratize, if you wish, AI and shall make AI more, and generative AI much more accessible for the communities worldwide. For example, I was approached today by the guy from Latin America who is looking to use the power of generative AI to support underserved communities in Latin America in their efforts for the education for the kids in higher school. And this is a truly noble goal, and we are willing to do it regardless of any possible future benefit, commercial benefit, I mean, because this is what Cloudgeometry and I believe Jina.ai, Han will be talking about it, the values we share and we believe in it. I don't want to spend much time here, okay, about what we are doing. So we are going to have 4 sessions today. The 4th one will be delivered by my colleague Nick, our director of AI. of AI practice. Unfortunately, Nick could not make it from the United States to here, so I will be running his session. He will be running live, but via Google Meet. And the last maybe announcement, housekeeping announcement, we're going to record these sessions, okay? And by recording, I assume we have your consent that you will be also appearing on video, again, in the spirit of a contribution and education and outreach of Linux Foundation and Generative AI Commons. We're going to share those materials publicly available, so those who could not come to the event today will be still able to access those 4 great sessions that I hope you're going to hear. At 8 p.m., we're going to have a refreshment break, food and stuff like that, and then another refreshment break at the end of the session, so there are things to come. With no further ado, I will ask Annie to come up here. Annie, you have your presentation here. And let's start. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Yakov. First of all, I want to thank Cloudgeometry for inviting me, and thank you for all the good work that you're doing for the open source community. And my name is Anni Lai. Like I said, I'm from Silicon Valley, and I am a board director of LF AI and Data. I also contribute a lot to Jina.ai Commons. Jina.ai Commons. Later, I'm going to talk more about that. And before LF AI and Data, I was on the board of CNCF for 5 years, OpenStack Foundation for 5 years, and then other open source projects. And I'm very lucky that I'm able to pursue my passion in open source and get paid for it. So I have to thank my company for paying me to do open source work. My company is Futurewei. I'm responsible for Futurewei's open source strategy and operations. So you're here because you're interested in AI. And ChatGPT, I'm sure all of you are using ChatGPT, right? It has changed the way we do work. It has changed the way we live our lives. And ChatGPT happened in Q4 of 2022. And last year, 2023, we went through this explosive growth of AI, especially generative AI, and largely is because of open source. And open source makes AI and generative AI a lot more accessible to the masses. And that's why you have researchers, developers, users can enjoy the technology. So, and today I'm going to, for the next 40 minutes, I'm going to talk about how open source community help accelerate the improvement and innovation of generative AI. Okay, here I want to show you a very new survey report sponsored by Linux Foundation. And the report was conducted Q4 last year. It just got released, so it's very fresh off the press. And the survey report was done to help understand enterprise customers, enterprise users' view about open source and generative AI. And it's done by 3 very senior researchers who come from AI and research background, net PhDs from Europe as well as US. And all of them combined together, they have done over hundreds of researches. So as you'll see, it's a very sophisticated research. And this research, I just want to give you some background, the demographics, data of the contributors and participants of this research. As you can see, it's a very diverse, well-balanced. They range from people from companies, small companies, to medium-sized companies, to large companies. They are AI and machine learning engineers, senior executive, CXOs, strategists, data scientists, product managers, marketing, communication people, developers, software engineers. So as you can see, it's a very diverse. And also, they need to understand open source because we want to understand what enterprises think of open source in AI. And I think one shortcoming is, I would say shortcoming is just the way it is. The majority of participants come from US, North America. And it's because, I think partially because, the epicenter of generative AI is Silicon Valley. And people there are a lot more experts there, a lot more users there. And also, not just people who need to understand AI, people also need to understand open source. So it's a lot easier to get viable participants from North America. So this is the report. You can go to Linux Foundation and do just a search on, look for this report. It's published there. And here I'd like to summarize this report. So here, this is the high-level summary. Over 50% of the participants said AI, especially GAI, is a very key component for their business. And they plan to significantly invest in GAI, and GAI is also a very strategic for their future planning. And the way they use GAI is going to be kind of complementing what they have today. They will embed GAI technologies in the existing products or create brand new products around GAI. And one of the biggest barriers for them is security. It's not the immaturity of the technology, it's actually security. But so they have that concern, but this concern is shared for both proprietary GAI solutions as well as open source solutions. So for a lot of proprietary GAI solution vendors, they like to throw out what we call fear and uncertainty and doubts about open source, and they'll say open source is not safe, for AI solutions. But this survey actually argues against that. And for both proprietary and open source, security is a very big challenge. And also, the second and third requirements are scalability and accuracy. From this survey, it shows equally both open source and proprietary technologies share the same level of scalability and accuracy. And the third area is openness. Openness is very important when a company is choosing GAI technologies, because openness is related to the reliability, related to the quality of AI. And with openness in your GAI solutions, there's more transparency. With transparency, you can find out if there's any bias or potential risks, and then you can address them early on. Versus if you are using closed source GAI technologies, then you don't see what's in the box. You don't know the data that was used to train. You don't know the weights, the parameters that were used to train the model. So there's a lot of unknowns, and you can't really trust the output that were generated by the closed source GAI solutions. I mean, the analogy I like to use is, would you take a multivitamin without knowing exactly what's in there, right? Probably not. So transparency is extremely important for not just innovation, but also for risk management. And also, in general, companies would choose open source solutions when they deploy GAI technologies. And it can obviously, with open source, that it's faster innovation. And also you have a lot more diverse contribution. And like I said, it's transparent. And because of the transparency, users would feel they have a better control of their data. And so open source is definitely a very important approach for these enterprise customers. And so when they choose open source solution, one thing they do want to make sure that the open source solution is hosted on a vendor neutral open governance foundation, such as Linux Foundation. I know a lot of companies, they said, yeah, we host open source projects. But if it's a company-hosted projects, generally those projects are not run what we call open governance. That means the company's interests actually, are more important than being truly open. And in our industry, we hear the term called open washing. There's a lot of open washing going on. A lot of companies are saying their AI solution is open, but the problem is the definition of open. It can be can be adjusted based on their values. So in that sense, this is why it's even more important that we are. As an open source community, we are clear about exactly what's open. And later I'll talk about, what are the things that the community has been doing to defend openness. And so customers, enterprise customers think that, with open solution, in open AI solutions hosted on a vendor neutral open governance place, it is a long-term sustainability strategy. Okay, so this is a summary. Openness is definitely one of the key considerations when enterprise customers are thinking about deploying generative AI solutions, and customers are open. Being open is very important to them, and they definitely see the benefit of open source AI system. Collaboration, especially global collaboration. For a lot of AI systems, they were trained based on North America, data. So as you know, then the AI systems are not very global, so they have a certain bias. And so AI, in our world, if AI systems, we definitely going to start using AI systems a lot more. It's going to impact not just individuals, not just companies, but also our society, our humanity. If AI systems are not trained with diverse data, then AI systems is going to widen we call the digital divide. So in Silicon Valley, we have this funny term we call the GPU poor and GPU rich. There are companies who have a lot of GPUs that we call the GPU rich companies. And they have access to a lot of research papers. They have access to a lot of GPUs to run those model trainings. And so that's one category. And then you have the GPU poor, are the companies or people who don't have a lot of access. And so if the AI is not trained with equity, with diversity, then our world is going to be more and more skewed towards a certain class of people. So that's why it's important to embrace openness, because openness in AI research, AI deployment is going to foster global collaboration, and it's going to help increase the speed of innovation. It'll democratize the access of AI, and the transparency will help us uncover and rectify biases and vulnerabilities, and therefore help us achieve sustainable, ethical, and responsible AI innovation. So we are actually going through a very critical time. Some people kind of describe what we're going through as monumental, just like when we first started, internet, when Mosaic browser showed up, and then Netscape, and then later, other browsers, and then Google. And that was like, a lot of people said, oh yeah, that was a wave I went through, but I didn't go to the right company. I didn't, benefit from that wave. But now we're talking about this AI wave. It's just as big as that. So we are all very lucky we're here witnessing history. And AI is definitely going to change the way we live. It's going to change humanity. And this is why we need to make sure that when we develop AI, it's inclusive. We need to be inclusive. We need to involve people, not just technologists, but also policymakers and business people. So our AI solutions will be a lot more, will be responsible and ethical. And our neutral governance approach is the approach because the decisions are not made by specific kind of company or by certain individuals. The decisions are made by the community. Okay, for next 5-10 minutes, I'm going to talk about the AI model trends, challenges, and opportunities for the open source community. AI model trends. So the year of 2023 is all about the size of LLMs. And from ChatGPT 2 to ChatGPT 3, we saw 100x increase in model parameters. And then from GPT 3 to 4, we're seeing a 6 times increase. And you go to Hugging Face, the leaderboard, you see all these, number of parameters attached to the model name. So it was like the war for size. But moving forward, 2024, we see a lot of innovations are happening in the pre-training, fine-tuning, inference space. And also models, we see models are shrinking. You don't really need to have like a lot bigger, models, because at one point you're going to reach the diminishing return. So we're seeing a lot of models are innovations in models are happening in the smaller models, especially for sectors with sensitive data. Models are run on the edge over LLMs. And also in 2024 and moving forward, we are seeing more multimodal AI. In 2023, it was mostly about large language, natural language processing, and also images creations. And for moving forward, we'll see, GAI happening in images, audio, videos. These models will enable more comprehensive and interactive AI experience. And what are the main challenges in AI, those AI models? Ethical concerns, obviously, is number one. Like I said many times, bias is very important. It's a very big problem. If the data being trained is not diverse enough, then the AI that we produce will be also biased AI. And also, misinformation amplification is a huge problem. This year is a year of election. Globally, I heard we have like over 70 big elections happening. And I'm sure some people will use some AIs to help them with their election. And if the candidates are using misinformation to help them build their case, then we're going to have a lot of problems. And also malicious use. There's a data poisoning, what we call data poisoning going on. Some people can, insert like poison data into the data set, and that can really create a problem for the AI system. And there's a fairness, there's transparency, and responsible for AI. So obviously in Silicon Valley, what a lot of times what people focus is the speed, the profit, right? But we think that it's more important to make sure that we're building responsible AI. That means the AI needs to be explainable, it needs to be ethical, and needs to be transparent. And the second challenge is data privacy concern, user privacy and data protection, especially in EU, the GDPR and all these policies are enforcing the data privacy. And so the striking a balance between data access and privacy is an ongoing challenge. And the third challenge is data set limitation. Data is not just quantity, but also quality. You need to make sure that the data is high quality. It has to be diverse, and also potential biases need to be addressed. And for example, like I said earlier, when ChatGPT first showed up, and it was like, the GPU rich people who were able to have access to it, the companies who could use that. But then, and then also the data they used for training was geared towards more of the Western cultures. So over time, the and then there was only 8 languages available at the launch of ChatGPT 3. So as you can see, if we don't address that issue, then AI is going to be the privilege of the haves, and the have-not people then are going to fall further behind. And so that's a problem. That's something we need to address. And the fourth challenge is resource intensiveness. We all know that AI models, especially those large ones, require a lot of resources, computation resources, a lot of energy consumption, water usage, and we need to address that. And obviously, we want to create innovations to create smaller models or find more efficient way of using resources, energy. And reproducibility and benchmarking is also another challenge because a lot of AI models have different architectures, different training data, different evaluation metrics. It makes comparison and reproducing results more challenging. So establish a standardized benchmark and reproducibility guidelines are very important for the advancement in this field. And today, most of us, use ChatGPT 3, GPT-4, and other large AI models are proprietary. We call closed AI models, and they definitely have issues. And the major issue is lack of accessibility because if you want to use any closed source AI systems, you need to sign licensing agreement with the AI service providers, and the devil is in the details of those agreements, right? Sometimes they even use the open words, means that you can easily access AI, but then there are certain conditions that, okay, you can only use AI within certain scope, and if you're out of the scope, then there's a violation of your license agreements. So that's definitely an issue, problem there with the closed-sourced AI models, and also lack of transparency, right? Like I said, the analogy I use is the multivitamins. If you don't know what's in there, then it's not very safe for you to use. And when we talk about transparency, it's not just the source code. We're also talking about the parameters and the training data. And this is why we want to make sure that, in the open source AI system, we want to have visibility to all of them. Lack of customizability, that's another issue with the closed source, because you can't see, so you can't fine tune, you can't modify. And the last one is IP rights, and so copyrights, patents, especially if you are a distributor or if you are selling AI services based on the closed-sourced AI models, then you need to be very careful how you distribute your models. And again, the licensing agreement is very important. You need to have lawyers to really go through the details of those agreements. Okay, so opportunities for open source community. Obviously, with open source, you can, collaborate globally, and you can innovate a lot faster. There's a lot of knowledge sharing. This is why you see Hugging Face. You have, last I checked, over 400,000 models out there. This energy is astounding. And so it definitely, open source, because of the knowledge sharing, the synergy, you can foster a lot faster innovation, and transparency is key, especially for researchers. And if you can really see what's under the hood, then you can help improve and democratizes access. And then there's also federated LLMs. So for a lot of closed source LLMs, closed source AI systems, they are run in a centralized environment. But with open source, maybe we can explore decentralized federated LLMs, allowing for increased privacy and data control. Okay, so the benefits of using open source AI, obviously transparency is great, right? So it enhances data security and privacy. Cost saving wise, it's because it's free, it's available for use. So you reduce a lot of cost. You're not dependent on the hyperscalers, especially those cloud service providers, and not just the AI systems that you are depending on, but also the cloud services, the infrastructure running underneath. So you'll become more and more you're more dependent on those cloud service providers. And then active community support and fostering innovation. It democratizes the use of LLM and lower the entry barriers for developers. So because it's open source and anybody, we actually see a lot of AI developers, whether it's models or tools, they come from universities. It can come from students who have no work experience, but then they can participate and contribute. And also, because it's open, then you can really understand the resource consumption. So you can address the carbon footprint and water consumption issues. And versus closed source, it's a black box. You don't know how much they're using. And like I said, we need to build responsible AI. And so whatever we're building to achieve the next level of AI technology, we also want to make sure that we're being responsible. Okay, so these are some leading open source large language models. I'm sure you're familiar with Llama 2, and there's a lot more. Falcon is actually the latest popular one out there. And then we're seeing not just, these models not just coming from North America, they're also coming from Europe as well as Middle East and China. And we see more and more open source large language models than proprietary models out there. And also we're seeing performance gap between the proprietary models and open source models is getting smaller and smaller. So this is good news. Okay, so open source AI community activities. Here I'd like to talk to you about, what the community is doing. The first one is open source AI definition by OSI, Open Source Initiative. So open source has been around for over 40 years. And for the last 25 years, the way we defend open source or openness, true openness for software is OSI's definition of open source. And we follow the definition and we create licenses based on the definition. But for AI, it's not enough. The open source definition is not enough because AI does not just involve software source code, but also involves data, parameters, and weights. So we need to have a different definition for AI. And so this community, OSI community, which I'm also part of, they're defining open source definition for AI. And it's been going on for over 6 months now. They have regular meetings, and anybody's welcome. So if you're interested in that effort, go to OSI website, and then you'll see when and how often they meet. And they want to make sure that everybody, whoever is interested in the effort, can participate. And so right now they just launched the draft. Very early draft, and which is based on Free Software Foundation's 4 freedoms: the freedom to study how system works, and inspect inspect its components, use the system for any purpose without having asked for permission, modify the system to change its recommendation, predictions, and decisions to adapt the user need, share the system with or without modification for any purpose. So the freedom to use, freedom to study, to analyze, to improve, and distribute. And this is something that we want to stick to. And a lot of, I don't want to name names, but AI systems out there, they claim they are open, but they do not meet these requirements. In that case, we don't consider them being truly open. Okay, the next effort is Generative AI Commons, and I'm part of that. Generative AI Commons is an initiative under Linux Foundation AI and Data. And, first of all, Linux Foundation AI and Data has been over, 5-6 years. Initially, it's called LFAI, and then And then they added data later because without data, AI doesn't work, right? So there's a lot of innovations that are happening in the data space, like data preparation, data cleansing, that kind of technologies are needed for AI training. And last year, there's this movement of generative AI. So we created Generative AI Commons to work on innovations in that space, in the Gen.ai space. And the mission statement is to, this Commons is dedicated to fostering the democratization, advancement, and adoption of efficient, secure, reliable, and ethical generative AI open source innovations through neutral governance, open and transparent collaboration and education. And it sounds a lot of words, but they actually mean, every single word actually means something and can be backed up by the work that we are doing in Gen.ai Commons. So Gen.ai Commons it's under LFAI and Data. It's a nonprofit organization. It's vendor neutral. It embraces open governance, and it's credible because it's under Linux Foundation, which has over 30 years of history of hosting open source projects with over 3,000 members and over 1,000 open source projects. So there's a lot of expertise in how to, incubate, operate, and grow an open source project. And Generative AI Commons, we currently have 4 work streams. Again, we just launched that last year, towards the end of the year, so it's still very new. And we have a lot of good people working on, these work streams, but we could always use more. And if you're interested, go to Gen.ai Commons website. It'll show you how you can participate. And here I'd like to spend some time explaining these 4 work streams. Let's look at frameworks. Framework covers responsible and trustworthy AI frameworks, model openness framework, best practice, and compliance in code. And right now, the current deliverable we're working on is model openness framework. So, OSI is defining open source definition, the definition for open source AI. And that is more of a higher level principle. But from a practical standpoint, a lot of companies, especially I know a lot of US startup founders, and you think about if you want to use open source model, but then you need to find out where you can, make money, you can differentiate, you want to keep it closed. And so this framework actually allows you to be very transparent about what's closed, what's open. And we think that it's very practical. And basically, we're creating this framework for these open source system creators to label themselves, to be extremely explicit about, which part they're open, which part they are closed. And we're looking at, the framework, the models, right? And the models includes data trained, the model source code, the pre-training, the inference, the fine-tuning code, data card, model cards, all these things. And we actually have different levels of openness, and you can identify which level your solution, your AI system is, so your users can be, can feel the transparency from your the system you're providing. And the next work stream is models and data. In this work stream, we try to identify models and data projects, and also benchmarks and reports. So if you have you're currently working on some open source models or data that you need a home to host, please come talk to us. We can help you incubate and grow your project. And the next work stream is application work stream. And, 2023, we put a lot of energy in, creating all these large models. Or now we're moving towards more small models. And applications, AI application is also very happening in 2024. You'll hear about agents, right? So there's going to be agent framework that, will be defined. And also, we are currently working on AI application ecosystem landscape. And Linux Foundation, if you're familiar with Linux Foundation, you know for a lot of umbrella projects, because there's so many projects, we need a way to logically, put them in a map. And so what Linux Foundation would do is it's a kind of a tradition for large, like CNCF, they have this huge landscape that shows all the components of, it's almost like a technology stack, and you can see the open source projects that fit in each component. So we are creating that for open AI application ecosystem. And this is a very important work. It's a lot of work, so I definitely welcome your contribution, your participation. And the last work stream is education and outreach. And this is a work stream that takes all the findings, all the work from the other 3 work streams, and then we publish them. And also, we want to make sure that, we always have new blood, new contributors coming, and so we are also creating education materials, training materials to help more people get into this space. And currently we are working on I'm working, it's almost done. We created this generative AI glossary. So it's more like a little dictionary for you because we have a lot of terminology. It's really important to know them. And then also we are creating this state of open source generative AI report that will give a really good summary of what's going on in the open source GAI space. Okay, so it is a very rigorous and very disciplined workstream process. We define scope, we define goals, objectives, and tasks. And so as you know, for any open source project, especially based on open governance, who makes decisions? It's the people, it's the contributors. It's not one company, it's not one individual. So, and the decisions are made in those work streams. So if you want to have an impact in what we are defining, then please come join us. And this is where you can go find out. We have mailing lists, we have portals, we have meetings, we meet bi-weekly. All these work streams meet individually. In fact, we are meeting at the time that's more suitable for you guys. It's more painful for me. It's mostly 6 a.m., 7 a.m. my time, but it's probably 3, 4 p.m. your time. So yeah, definitely if you can, you're interested, it's definitely a place for you to, at the very minimum, to learn what's going on, and then hopefully you can participate and contribute, and maybe even host or lead projects in the future. And so there's a lot of links, but all you need to do is just Google generative AI Commons, and then we have a website there. In that website, it'll tell you where to go for signups and get connected. Okay, the next thing is called AI Dev Platform. This is Linux Foundation. They created this conference called AI Dev to help AI collaboration. And we just had our first one in Silicon Valley towards the end of the year, December. Actually, that was the last conference I attended, last 2023. And it was kind of a last minute thing, so it was not very big, but the result was a lot more, better than what we expected. We got over close to over 700 people, and then the energy was amazing, and it was kind of still very grassroots. And because we got a lot of feedback, so we decided that we're going to do more in the rest of the world. So next one is Paris. We're going to do one in Paris, June 19th and 20th. If you want to go to Paris that time, try to catch that. This is where you meet people who are hands-on, who are really working on the AI innovations. We get researchers, we get developers, we get architects there. And another one, we're going to do another one in U.S., Seattle, Washington, October. And then we're going to do maybe a couple in APAC, Japan, and TBD. So that's GAI Commons. Please join us. It's we have really good people and a lot of good representation, and IBM, Microsoft, and Eleuther AI, and Wikimedia. So it is a pretty good crowd. Please come join us. Okay, here I need to give an update on LFAI and data, and so. How many of you are participating in LFAI and data? Please raise your hands. Okay, a few. Okay, so Yeah, definitely. It's a really good community to grow, to innovate and incubate, grow your AI projects, and so with open source, we have accessibility to the AI systems. And this is the place where you can go, and learn and collaborate. And we created this landscape. Earlier I mentioned about the Linux Foundation tradition. For any umbrella project, we have this landscape map. And as you can see, there are different components ranging from machine learning, data model, distributed computing. And then each category, you have a subcategories. And then these are little boxes are the open source projects underneath. And you see, we have over 359 projects, 3.3 million GitHub stars, over 100,000 developers, over 200 organizations, over 200 million line of code. On average, it's 1 million line of code per week. And so it's a huge platform, and definitely you should leverage that. And so what does LFAI and data solve? Number one, it solves the fragmentation issues, because without a platform like this, you have all these companies trying to do their doing same thing. So you have fragmentation, or even region. You have U.S., Europe, Asia Pac. If they are doing their own thing, creating their own standards, they will have fragmentation. And fragmentation is really bad for users as well as for developers. That means there's a lot of redundant work, and then that's going to slow down the technology innovation. And then with such a platform, we can make integration a lot easier, because we agree on certain standards, and then with the certain standards we agreed on, we can integrate a lot faster. And then this platform allows you to, host your projects. And we're not just talking about software. You can host your data as well. And also it will help you manage your other projects artifacts, like your social media, your wiki, and that kind of stuff. So members, LFAI and data, the big guys are there already. AWS, Huawei and Microsoft and Alibaba and all these big companies. And you also get a lot of nonprofits there. And we hope to grow bigger, and especially this year. Later, I'll have last year, 2023. So we're growing very steady. All of a sudden, 2023, we get a lot more companies signed up, a lot more developers. 2020. Obviously, thanks to ChatGPT, it makes AI hot again. So members, these are the members, premium members with general members, associate members. And then these are the projects hosted under LFAI and data. And industry leaders host projects there. You see a lot of names I'm sure you're familiar with. And commit growth, we are seeing, it starts with 2020. This is when the pandemic happened. And it's very interesting that people are still, working after during the pandemic and after the pandemic. So we're seeing, the total commits is over 250,000. We are seeing an increase, a huge increase, 96% increase. And total number of contributors, 30,000 contributors. And the organizations, currently we have 434 organizations who are actively participating in co-contribution. So we need new people, we need new blood, because new people bring us new ideas, new energy. So new developers are always welcome. And for developers, whether you are working for some company or you are just on your own, or you are getting your degrees in schools, participating in this open source environment can help you not just learn, but also understand all these existing projects. And also, as a company, you can leverage the R&D resources and help you with your products, faster innovation, boost your reputation, and help you get more resources. And so companies, why do you want to participate in LFAI and data? it can help you reduce your R&D cost, and also it gives you access to a lot more talent all over the world. And in the beginning, you don't need to have a project to participate. You can just dive into meetings, listen and learn, and then hopefully over time you can participate and then launch projects. That's it. Thank you very much, and please join us. Do I have time for questions? Okay.
Let's take.
Oh.
Thank you, Annie. Let's take a seat.
Okay.
So, first of all, guys, any questions from the audience?
Hello, I'm Jonathan from Wikimedia. We actually have a meeting on Wednesday together. My biggest question is, how do we convince companies that they should care about our open source definitions and contributions? Obviously, we support it. We want to look for a way to be convincing about companies wanting to engage. Like OpenAI used to talk about being open and not anymore, and I don't think they care. So that's my question.
Okay, so your question is, how do we encourage people to really care about being openness, right? So, like I said earlier, I talked a lot about, the challenge, the problems of closed source, right? Closed source, because you can't see what's underneath under the hood, and there's a lot of risks. And earlier I showed you, for a lot of companies, in order for them to adopt AI solutions, security is their number one concern. So if you can't see, how can you ensure security? So from a company's perspective, or if your customers want security, wants transparency, then you should embrace openness. And openness, like I said earlier, there's a lot of open washing going on right now. People are saying, yeah, I'm open. That means you can use my model, but ... right? So that but ... in the contract, that's where you have to be very clear. So if we have so much, open washing going on, then we're losing our open standards. Open standards. So without having open standards, then there's no benchmark, and then, the world, if there's no certain standards, then, we lose over time. If we lose being truly open, then we can't define openness, then it's bad for the industry, it's bad for our users. So I know, and then another thing is, how do we encourage companies to believe in openness, right? Because a lot of companies, they value speed over responsible AI. They just want to, go out, release whatever they have, and they say, trust us. We have a lot of smart researchers, smart AI developers, and what we're building is most secure. It's great. It gives you good answers. It gives you good predictions. But again, a lot of times we need to think about being responsible, because I think being responsible trumps being the fastest or being the most performing, right? I think if we are moving so fast without being responsible, then the AI system can lead us into the wrong path. And like I said, AI is not just about the tech industry, it's actually about our society, our humanity. And sometimes it is important to, take a pause and then be responsible. And being open is part of being responsible. If you look at the definition of responsible AI, it's about, explainability. You need to be able to explain how an AI system generates certain results. And that explainability requires openness. So, there's a lot of conversation, but at the very minimum, we need to understand it's important to build responsible AI. And then from there, then that's where openness plays in. Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks for the talk. My name is Mohammed. I'm with Hero Labs. So are you GPU rich or GPU poor? And
me as a person?
No, the foundation. And also
the foundation.
If you can speak a little bit more concretely about what you offer as an incentive or a support for companies that want to contribute to this mission.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to mention is that one of the covenants of the promise was to study AI models. And I think, when you talk about 180 billion parameter model or even a 7 billion parameter model, what I'm seeing, and I don't know if people here agree with me, is that it's you can study the model architecture to some level, but without knowing the procedure of the training and the actual data that went in, it's the benefits are rather limited. So I think there's also the two big barriers to entries is that pristine data sets, data processing systems, reliability and traceability into that process of the training, and then obviously the compute.
Right, right. So are we GPU poor, GPU rich? I'm talking about Linux Foundation. We on Linux Foundation, we are GPU nobody, but we have a lot of GPU rich friends. So we don't have to be rich, but as long as we have rich friends, that's okay. So, but in all seriousness, you saw Amazon's there. A lot of companies, GPU rich companies, are there, and that's the beauty of open source environment. If the big guys are playing in our community, a lot of times they contribute. CNCF is an example. I used to be on CNCF board. And all these hyperscalers, they would donate resources to help the costs. So if you have good projects, hey, if Llama 3 wants to come to us, I'm sure we'll find a way to host it. So it's a good. That's why having that community gives a lot of leverage. And about the being able to study large models, not just the model, the data, right? And yeah, I totally agree with you. Just having open source, the model itself, the architecture is not enough. You also need to see what kind of data that goes in. That's why they have data cards, right? You have model cards, all these things. So what we are saying, when we are working on the model openness framework, we're looking at all these different components, and then the way we're doing this is still in draft form, but I can just give you a sneak preview. So we are actually making it 3 levels. Level 1 is model open, the source code of the model, and then the very minimum. How do you get the model running? And then level 2 is more of, all this inference, pre-training, and fine-tuning source codes need to be open. Level 3, data needs to be open, right? So it depends. Sometimes for commercial reasons, you just can't open everything. Or for compliance reason, you can't open everything, like data. Like if you are working on some healthcare, AI solutions, and then you have, privacy concerns, you can't open the data, but you can describe your data. So that's why we think it's important to create that model openness framework that gives the model producers the ability to be transparent, and it gives the model users the ability to see what you are dealing with. So that's the best we can do, at this point.
Yeah, my name is Rudy Seiler. I just wanted to point out something which you certainly all know, but I just wanted to stress it, namely that the large language models and the neural networks have changed the qualitatively one aspect of openness. You can have an open system like a Llama system, but as long as you do not really know what is happening inside, you are, for instance, never sure whether a jailbreaking attack can really be successful or not. It can be as open as it is, but there is a certain limitation of what we had before neural networks, where we could really, everything was in a way very clear what happens. Now we have, in some ways, still a black box. And this I find, in terms of a security issue, very important. So the whole aspect of security has become so much more important, as you pointed out. I would even suggest that one finds a new term for this kind of new security, because there is the security in the old sense, but there is a security in the new sense, and one should really distinguish between the two.
Thank you so much for sharing. Awesome points. And please come join us. We need your expertise. And I agree with you. Security, we're taking security to a different level. Before, we're thinking about security at the source code level. Now we're talking about, people can abuse the AI, and then, there's data poisoning and all that stuff. It can really lead us into the wrong path if security is not addressed.
Hi, I'm Marek. I have so many questions about one topic, so I just maybe ask one general. What's your standpoint on copyright data in training those models?
Incorporate data into training?
In copyrighted data.
Oh, copyrighted data. Oh, that's a very juicy topic. Yeah, OpenAI got sued, right, by New York Times, and so I'm not like authority, so I can't tell you, but I can tell you my personal feelings, and then from what I've read or from people I talk to, data is very interesting. Obviously, it needs massive amount of data to train, and a lot of data is copyrighted. Some is publicly available. I think moving forward, there will be opportunities for copyrighted data providers to make money, and so. I watch a lot of Sam Altman's interviews. And so basically, he was saying data definitely needs to be quality data. Not every data is really, piece of data is required, but quality data is important. And in order to get quality data, we need to pay respect to copyrights. And people should not be just taking data, whatever data they use, and then train. So there's going to be, opportunities for data providers to really make money and participate in the Gen.ai ecosystem. And also another thing what's interesting is human-made data is going to be limited. It's not going to be enough. In the future, we need a lot more data. So now there's talk about synthetic data. So there's like innovations happening in creating synthetic data for training. So data is, like I said, AI without data can be functional.
So there is nothing like Linux Foundation is building those models only on open Creative Commons data. It's actually, you are not shy from using copyrighted data. The question, if I understood you correctly, is how to create a framework to compensate creators.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I've heard. It's still happening, like how we deal with copyrighted content data, right? And it's this policymakers are working, and I'm sure there's a lot of lobbyists are also participating in this conversation, and those big tech giants are really helping policymakers make decisions. So it's very happening. But my point is we do need to respect copyright because people put in their own, energy into creating content. So the policymakers need to, and then the technologists need to come together, come up with some sort of system for that. But moving forward, I do think that copyrighted data should be addressed. And also there's people saying, if it's publicly available, there's a debate, right? That means I should be able to use it. I mean, did Google go through that when they first started doing search? They were crawling books, and the book authors were saying, hey, there's a royalty here. So I do think we're going through that phase. But
they did win a case in court.
Yeah.
So Google won a case in court that their use of scanning books was fair use, was considered fair use by U.S. Supreme Court.
Right.
And I think this is a really interesting topic because we love regulations here in Europe. So, but aside from regulations, like if the policymakers don't step in, the natural progression of this is that people who have something interesting to say may not say it because they know it's going to get scrapped and then goes into a model that makes money and they get nothing for it. So you see, the natural progression is to see less openness on content side and more paywalls and more licensed content. So this is like an unexpected adversarial effect of just scraping data unhindered.
Yeah.
It is a community event, so where do you stand on the copyright question of the data usage?
Yeah, it's actually, I don't think it's possible to create those generative AI models without the quality data, including this data, because what we are really building with generative AI, we are kind of recreating a collaborative brain of humanity. So if you exclude significant portions of this human creativity, your models will be crippled. And I think the interview with Altman, he said, I'm not sure if I'm quoting him correctly, but he said that you cannot build, we cannot really have a competitive product without copyright material. And this was actually my source of my question. So I think it will be hard to actually have a general use generative model without this data.
Yeah, and also I think that, a lot of inference and fine tuning, you're going to require proprietary data, right, to differentiate, right? So yeah, data is definitely a big subject, but we're not saying all the data needs to, when you train the basic model, yeah, we want openness. But then if you want to fine tune and inference for your specific application, or for the service that you're providing, then sometimes it's necessary to have your own proprietary data. That's your differentiator.
Hi, my name is Milad. Actually, I'm working for a company called IT for IPM. So we are especially working in the intellectual property. And the way that I see it, actually, if we do not regulate it in the way that people needs to pay for the stuff that they are using, the direction that it goes, that some company like the companies that they are protecting people go to direction of poisoning, because it's going to make sense that we are protecting our users, that their work would be outside, but no one can use it for the training purposes. If it's the case, then this way we can protect the people, because those are making money. And if those are the only source of income for them, and if they do not get paid for those things that they are doing, probably it's going to make sense for them that would make it in the way that no one can use it. And probably it's not good for everyone. This is the way that I see it, because you ask about the opinions.
Yeah, sure.
I think this is a free forum. This is, especially in this subject, the discussions are still happening. Nobody has the answers, but it's great that we share here, as long as we have time.
We have more 5 minutes,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so I'll go last maybe. Great talk, thanks firstly. So other than copyright data, that's, you may ask permission and you may get it and you can use it. There are also sensitive data that we talked about already, like medical or, legal documents or whatever. What's your approach here? Or, do you have any suggestions? Do you do anything? Is it better to use it, anonymize it, open source the anonymized version, or anonymize it, train on the anonymized version, and put the original data that has been trained on? And, this is also a really big question all the time. It's a great ideal world where we have open model, open data, but there are sensitive data too. So
Yeah. So, first of all, I'm not a data scientist, so I can't answer that question. But this is something that's a really good question, and that's why we have a model data work stream, and to discuss this kind of stuff. And then hopefully, we can produce really valuable insights for the community. So I don't have the answer to that question, but definitely it's worth investigating and then come up with, insights that everybody can benefit from.
But I may add, when we are talking about healthcare data, it's important to understand the difference between US, where Annie coming from, in Europe. I was dealing with healthcare in my previous career. The data owner of healthcare conditions of the patient in the US it's the healthcare provider. And healthcare providers in the United States are very resistant and very reluctant to sharing even anonymized data for the purpose of the research. This is not the case in EU, where the patient is actually the data owner and he can give a consent for research purposes to a healthcare provider. And I think those exactly the points where the advocacy and lobbying and the open source initiatives should be pushing, because there is no doubt that if we will be able to train a model to detect a certain kind of cancer based on whole database of the entire world, taking into consideration many, many parameters, the preventative medicine will just benefit from it. We are not there. The money speaks here, unfortunately, against the goodwill of the humanity.
We can sit here and talk for like hours because it can get really abstract, and then and then it is important for our humanity. AI innovation. It is impacting the way we live.
So I don't read that actually. For the recording, sure. So I have a high-level question. How would you estimate the probability that open source research in terms of performance or quality of the output and adoption catches up with OpenAI? So right now we see OpenAI is just purely dominating the market, basically a monopoly. Do you see that changing in the future, and how likely it is?
I mean, first of all, I can't make predictions, but my personal view is, OpenAI, how many scientists they have? Like last time when Sam Altman was booted, they say they have, 80? How many employees? 100, something, versus the rest of the world. I mean, our open source community is huge. And especially you see a lot of academics, the universities, they all support nonprofit, they support open source, open science. That's their culture. And so if we put all these great minds together, and I think we can catch up. I mean, look at CNCF. Right, for those of you who are doing cloud development, CNCF is pretty much the platform for cloud native application development. It's open source, right? Versus closed source. I mean, open source can pretty much dominate, and Linux. Everybody uses Linux, right? So before Linux was proprietary, Windows, Solaris, and all that, right? And then, so I do think if we give enough time and the speed of innovation in the open source community can outperform proprietary companies. And that's just my personal view.
Let's hope.
Cool, thank you. And I think that would be a great question to ask also Han, who is our next speaker, the CEO and co-founder of Jina.ai. But Annie, thank you so much for this interesting session. Thank you for taking time to answer the questions. Thank you, guys. Again, a housekeeping announcement. All those links that Annie was mentioning about an ability to join Linux Foundation, Generative AI Commons, and to join other initiatives, once we will be editing the video that we are filming here, we will be posting it online. I will be sending an email to all of you, to all registered people, and you will be able to go there and to see it, okay?